Now we're going to be learning about variables. And variables happens to be a very important aspect of programming. And we're going to start by understanding the meaning of variables and how to make use of them in our programs. But first, what is a variable? A variable is like a container which is used to store data or values in our program. It is a way of giving names to values or data so that whenever you need those values or data, you can simply refer to them by the variable names. So we'll start by learning how to declare variables. To declare a variable, first you need to provide the name, and second you need to provide the value. So we can have something like this: num, then I'll put an equality symbol, then I'll provide a value. So this is a variable and this is the value or data. So what we just did now is that we assigned this value to this name so that whenever we want to make use of this value, we can simply make use of the name. For instance, let's go ahead and print 10. I can do print 10, but this is a sort of hard coding our program with values. A better way of doing this is by making use of the variable. So I can simply write print num and it will give us the same output. And the beauty about this is that if I decide to change the value associated with num, maybe I change this to 100, I don't have to go to my print statement and alter the value. So whenever I make changes on the value, it is reflected on the variable. So if I run the program, it is going to give me 100. I can change this to 8 and it is going to give me 8. So this is how we declare variables. And in some programming languages, you are required to specify the type of variable, whether it's a number, whether it's a string, but in Python, all you have to do is just provide a name and provide a value. This way you have declared a variable. So let's give other examples. I just used num. So let's have something like age. Maybe you want to represent somebody's age. You can use age like this is equal to maybe 20. And let's have another example. We can have maybe value is equal to 10.5. So this is also a valid statement. So far we've declared 3 variables, and if we want to print them out, we'll simply specify the name of those variables. So let's go ahead and print age, and also print value. We'll have print value, and we'll run our program. Then we have the values corresponding to the variables. Then another thing you can do with variables is that you can use variables to hold an expression, just the way we have mathematical expressions where you can perform addition, subtraction, and so on. You can also do the same thing in Python. So let's have something like this. We can have result is equal to 10 plus 5. This is hard coding. But I can have variables like this. I can have num1 is equal to 10. And I'll have num2 is equal to 5. So now I want to add up 10 and 5. So instead of writing result is equal to 10 plus 5, I can simply say result is equal to num1 plus num2. And we'll go ahead and print the result. So this is an example of how we can make use of variables. So I can change the values and everything will still work out well. So I can maybe make this 11. I can change this to 60. And if I run the program, it will still give me a correct output, which is 60 plus 11, which is 71. Then before we go further, there are a couple of rules to be observed when you are choosing names for your variables. And the first rule is that valid variable names start with either underscore or letters. For example, if I have num like this, num is a valid name because it started with a letter. If I have underscore num like this is still a valid name because it started with an underscore. So if you want your variable name to be valid, you have to start it with a letter or underscore. When you have a variable name starting with a number like this is invalid. You can see the error highlighting in the program because you are not supposed to start a variable name with a number. So the right way to do it is to start it with a letter. Also, another rule to be observed is that variable names can be a combination of letters, underscores, and numbers. Okay? For instance, we can have num2. This is a valid name. The only problem is that we cannot start it with a number, but we can have it any other place apart from at the beginning. So this is a valid name. I can also have underscore there, which is also a valid name. And a lot of times we normally use underscores when we have names comprising of multiple words. For instance, if you have something like first name is equal to Eve, this is called a string. We're going to get to this when we reach data types. So if you look at this name, you can see that this name consists of 2 words. And in Python, you cannot use spaces in valid names. I cannot have first name like this. This is an invalid name. So a better way of doing this is by using underscore. So this way you can see the words clearly. But if I leave it like this, it is difficult for you to see the wordings in the name. But when you have underscore, it brings out the individual words that make up the name. Another example is maybe you want to represent date of birth. I can write date of birth is equal to, maybe you specify the value. But if you want to make this name to be more clear, you use underscores to break the words. So after the date, I'll put underscore. Then after the of, I'll put underscore. So this is a valid name as well. Then another thing again is there is what we call Python keywords. These are names that have special meaning in Python. For instance, words like print is a reserved word. Words like input is a reserved word. Words like if, not, and so on. There are so many Python reserved words or keywords. So you are not allowed to use them as valid Python names or variables. So you can use it, but it is not a good practice to use those reserved words as your variable names. Then another rule to observe is that you have to use meaningful and descriptive names for your variable names. For instance, I can have A is equal to 20. This is a valid name, but the A is not descriptive. You don't know what it means. Now, but if I change this to age, when you look at this value, you will know that this represents somebody's age. So this is a descriptive name. Date of birth, for instance, you can as well write DOB. When somebody sees DOB, the person can think maybe this is date of birth. So this is a descriptive name. Or you want to write first name. This is a descriptive name. It doesn't make sense that you are using something like X or Y or one character names for your variable. Always aim for those names that describes the data that it represents. Then finally, you cannot use symbols in your variable names. So let's look at this name. We have age. is equal to 10. If I put a hyphen, it is going to make this name invalid. If I put dollar symbol, it is going to make it invalid. So you don't use symbols in your variable names. If you want to use a symbol, you use underscore. This is a valid name. Then also, Python names or variable names are case sensitive. So when we have age is equal to 10, it is quite different from age is equal to 10. Two of them are different 10s because all the characters here are in lower cases. Then this one, the first letter is in uppercase. So Python is case sensitive. This name and this name are different, even though they have the same spelling. Likewise, when you have first name like this is equal to, let me put something, and you have first name, they're two different things altogether. So the cases have to match for them to be the same thing. And another thing about variable is that once you declare a variable, you can use it as many times as you want in your program. Just like we have result is equal to num1 plus num2, I can as well say result is equal to num1. This asterisk is used for multiplication, and num2. You can see I used the variable 2 times. I can use it as many times as I want. So, but let's go ahead and print and demonstrate something. Print result. Let me go ahead here and say print result and run the program. So from the output, you can see we have 71 and 660. So the value of result as at this line of code is 71. Then at this point, it is now 660 because we assigned it to a new expression, which is num1 multiplied by num2. And we can as well change the values associated with our variables in between our program. I can come over here and say num1 is equal to 1000. And that becomes the current value of num1 henceforth. So if I go over here and let me copy this and paste it below and print result, this is now going to give us 1000 plus 60, which is 1060. So this becomes the output for our program. And like I said before, Python do not require you, or you're not required in Python to specify the type of data that a variable represents. So what this means is that variables are not tied to types. If you notice, this is a number, this is a number. I can as well come over here and say num1 is equal to hello. Nothing changes. What this means is that starting from this line, num1 is noun hello, and hello is of a type called strings. Now we're going to learn about data types.